got handed an Ayn Rand sandwich straight from the can.
All right, I am very excited. I have on the line right now John Flansburgh from They Might Be Giants. I've been a long-time fan ever since I was a little kid, and they actually had the brand new album I Like Fun come out on January 19th, and I've been loving it. And they also have the highly anticipated return of their Dial-A-Song service, which we've been a big fan of and supporter of here at WICB. And they are actually coming to play a concert at the State Theater on October 25th. John, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm in a extraordinarily Spartan Scottish dressing room.
Okay, nice.
It's a chair, a tiny speaker that I guess you get your cues from, and like one of those dressing room mirror tables with the clear light bulbs that only there's 4 light bulbs.
That's everything you need.
Yeah,
perfect.
It's very the glamour is oppressive.
Yeah, I can picture it in my head. So you've been on tour for quite a while, and I know you're in the UK right now. How's that tour been going?
We've been on the road since January. We started in the South and went all across the United States and back.
Oh, right, okay.
We sort of crawled across the United States, played through Texas and then, up the West Coast and then back around. This is actually, these shows we're doing some Midwest shows, but mostly we're playing Canadian shows. We're doing our actual first proper Canadian tour.
Nice.
And coming back into the U.S., we're coming through and playing at the State.
Awesome. Yeah, and I know you've been there before. We're very excited to have you guys back. And there's actually
I love the State. I love the State. I love the junk store next to the State.
Yes.
I shouldn't call it the antique shop next to the State.
Yep.
Is a must drop-in move for me. I love that place.
Yeah, there's lots of crazy stores all around there. So I know you guys recorded I Like Fun at Reservoir Studios, which is where you recorded Flood back in 1989. What kind of drove you returning to that space? And was it like...
Well, the studio business is the newspaper business or the music industry in general, or a lot of media businesses in the 21st century. It's been super dicey. I think they were sold to some Russian mobsters for a while, and where it was actually run as a studio. I did some jingles for the New York State Lottery there.
Nice.
when it was being run by the mob guys. And it definitely had that vibe. It was just whoa, this place is kind of heavy. And but it's kind of gone in and out of business a couple of times over the past 10, 15 years. But it's an amazing space. I mean, it's the kind of recording studio that you could do like a small symphony orchestra in. It's got a big room and a big drum room, and it's quite a facility. But we're working with this guy named Pat Dillett, and he's moved around the city. He was actually when we were making Flood, he was not the assistant. He was literally the T-boy.
Mm.
He was the guy. He was the runner guy,
right?
Who would just sort of set things up for the engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And but he was also the only person in the room who was kind of our age,
right?
And so, in a lot of situations like that, you kind of have an affinity for the person who's just more your peer. And we were, it's like a room filled with people who are like, "This is how you do it, kid," And
right.
So. We just became, we befriended Pat, and we've just kind of been working with him from then on, and he's got incredible skills. I mean, he came up under working for Nile Rodgers and worked
Sure.
for a lot of big wheel producers, so he's got lots of skills.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I know you brought back the Dial-A-Song program. It came back in 2015 and is coming back again recently. And I know you switched up the format a few times and went back to a podcast at one point. And what inspired you to bring it back this time around?
Well, it's just the nature of the way music is, comes into people's lives is much more through social media than than through even rock critics or it's just how music works in people's lives is just very different these
mm-hmm.
days, and it seems like. So we write a lot of songs, and we put a lot of songs on our albums, and it just seems like kind of a spreading out the release of them over a year, having like a weekly installment just kind of keeps people involved with the band.
Right.
And posting a new song every week. Also, another thing that's nice about it is it lets fans who kind of, who are interested in the band but didn't know about us in the days when we were doing the original Dial-A-Song service, it sort of allows them to participate in that same kind of activity.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different, it's just, I don't know, it's a weird songwriting challenge, and probably seems foolish to a lot of people, but it's fun for us, and it has this strange utility of just kind of keeping us in people's inboxes and on their Facebook feeds.
Right. Yeah, and it seems like with programs like this, it seems like you really have a goal of getting as much content and music out to your fans as possible, which we really appreciate. And the new model of the music industry kind of helps and aids in that way. But it ends up forcing you to kind of write 52 songs in a year, and it's definitely a challenge, I'm sure. And do you have a conscious sort of process for keeping it fresh and avoiding repetition, or is it just kind of a natural thing?
Well, I mean, John and I, collaborate on a lot of things and have sort of like different strategies of how to collaborate with one another and kind of almost provide like prompts for one another in different ways. And we both write on our own. So it's not quite as much work as it sounds like. Right. I mean, it's which is not to say that I'm going to be home. When I get back from Europe, I'm going to be home for like 4 or 5 days before we hit the road, and I actually have a studio session and have to like wrap up a couple of these songs, and it's like, oh God.
Right.
So, I think the truth is, it's like, we are interested in a lot of different kinds of sounds and a lot of different kinds of songwriting, and that is, so just having that sort of open invitation to write different ways is enough to kind of keep us alive.
Right. And I know you kind of changed it up by writing children's music once in a while. Like back in 2002, you released No, which was your first children's album, and you kind of kept it sort of consistent as sort of a side gig ever since. Is there a different process for writing that type of music, or is it sort of the same thing?
It's kind of the same thing. I think all through, we were with Elektra all through the 90s. We had like a 10-year run with on a major label. Mm-hmm. And when you're on a major label, their focus is always figuring out how to, crack the radio charts. And, during that era, the radio changed a whole lot. But, we were still the same people that we were and never felt like particularly like it was like, oh, our place is on the top, we're a top 40 band. It never seemed like that to us. So, in a way, the moment that the opportunity to do a kids record came up, which was really just sort of it was always very much we assumed, I should say at the moment we did it, we assumed it would just be very much a side project and some no different than doing like a Christmas EP or some other kind of side thing. It just seemed like an interesting way to do songwriting that wasn't about like pop rock. You can do anything on a kid's record. There's no, what's a good kid's song? It's like it's just a good song. Right. So we put the record together and had a good time doing it. And then, it was just received with tremendous, like, sort of commercial and critical and audience success. I mean, it sort of overwhelmed us how much attention it got. Right. And, it was exactly at that Napster moment where all of a sudden, like, the whole rest of the industry was kind of in free fall, and we had this, like, suddenly had this kind of alternate smash on our hands. Mm-hmm. So it was just a nice surprise.
Yeah, and you even won a Grammy Award for Here Comes the 1-2-3s back in 2008, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been, we've done 5 album projects for kids at this point, and I'm not sure how many more we'll do. Mm-hmm. One thing that's strange that you sort of find out once you do kids stuff is that, like, the new kids don't know that the old kids album is old. It's like,
right.
It's still new to them. So it's like these records, these albums that we made, still live on.
Oh, for sure.
With kids. So it has a very long a long tail, as the internet people would say.
Yeah, that definitely I would agree with that. And you have a whole pretty enormous back catalog of music for any new fans. They can just go and discover a whole bunch of new songs, which is pretty great. And I actually, in terms of talking about I Like Fun, I recently watched the music video this morning actually for the song I Like Fun, and the animation style and imagery is really great, but it's also kind of dark, which is sort of a juxtaposition towards the title, really, and that's kind of a theme that goes through the whole album. Was that sort of intentional, kind of contrasting the I Like Fun with sort of darker themes?
Well, I mean, the last thing that happened with the album was we gave it the title, and we always kind of struggle with titles anyway, because it's like hard to sum up what are often a very disparate set of songs. But in the case of I Like Fun and the songs on the album, there is, when we were young men, we very sort of glibly dealt with, death imagery, and often relied on it kind of as like a writing crutch, because it's this very extreme kind of thing to introduce into a song. And now, as we've gotten older, there's like death is, death is a much more constant kind of drumbeat in our lives, only much more for real.
Right.
And so it's like, we're just like, we started out kind of fixated on death, and now we're old enough that we're just like, thinking about death. So it's a round of death for all our friends.
Right, yeah, just a different perspective on it, I guess.
Yeah,
so end on a little bit more of a lighthearted question. Like I said, your album's called I Like Fun. What exactly do you do for fun? What's your favorite thing to do when you're just trying to have a good time?
Oh, that's a really good question. The truth is, I am a workaholic.
Right.
My dad was an architect. He has his own firm in Cambridge in the 60s and 70s, and he just like worked day and night. And I always thought like, oh, my dad, he works so hard, he's so crazy. And I've just become completely the same kind of person. I literally am just working on music. I'll go work on stuff, and this is all I do. I mean, there's so many different aspects to They Might Be Giants as a musical project. Like even there's like graphic design stuff. There's all these videos that have to be organized. There's live shows. There's album packages. There's actually writing songs. There's just a million different. It's just a full-time challenge. I mean, I guess I do listen to vinyl. I kind of got back into listening to vinyl records about 10 years ago,
right.
Which I was pretty late to that fad. I mean, I had a record collection as a college student that I kind of lost to a roommate, and so I didn't have any records through the 80s, but then when I got like a weekender house in the Catskills, and my wife and I just got a cheap record player, and went to like the Salvation Army and picked up a bunch of dollar records. And so when we're like making food, we just listen to music, and it's weird because it's all very much in a time capsule. If you're listening to a vinyl record, chances are it's music that was made before 1980.
Especially if you're going to the thrift store to get the dollar records, you can find a bunch of them.
Exactly. But that's a lot of it. But the truth is, making music and just having a musical life, it's a very joyous kind of reality. Just singing all the time. Somebody said to me, like, the great thing about being a musician is you get to do what you want and a whole lot more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that definitely comes through in your music, and I've seen you guys live before, and it's just such a fun time. And I'm very excited again. You're coming on October 25th to the State Theater here in Ithaca. And I'd like to thank you very much for talking to us, John Flansburgh from They Might Be Giants.
Oh, it's totally my pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to the show. Ithaca's, all my family is from Ithaca.
Oh wow,
so
okay.
It's always, yeah. I mean, Cornell is like a big part of my childhood, and so it's always exciting to be there, and it's really a great place playing at the State.